Good to have you with us on this Wednesday edition. Ed Schultz Susan commentary from the nation's capital, where there's rumblings in certain corners of this city that we're going to have another government shutdown. Now think about that. The last time we had that, we got green eggs and ham on the Senate floor, and we got a $25 billion addition to what we owe the Treasury. Didn't do anything for anybody. So this is the conversation. We're going to go down this road again. Yet Donald Trump gives a speech today which calls for the largest military buildup since the Reagan years, and no detail on who's going to pay for it. Let me tell you who's going to pay for it. You are. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. That's right. That's what they'll go after. Now, you will never convince me that Paul Ryan is going to go along with a tax increase that would pay for any increase in military spending. This is where the magical word comes into their vernacular: offsets. Well, if we build it up over here, we have to offset it. And they're offsetting you, what you're going to have to do. The middle class, serve up more. So you want to go down the numbers: 350 more ships, 540,000 more Army personnel, 1,200 additional jet fighters, and 36 Marine battalions. I don't even know if Trump knows what a battalion is. This is what he's throwing out. It's crazy is what it is. Okay, lunacy is what it is to throw out in front of the American people, and some will absorb it. Now tonight on TV we're going to have Ann Coulter. I'll give you a perfect example of exactly how these Trumpites are going to just be jumping all over this, that Hillary could never do this and protect the country, and that we're going to make America great again. I know it's sickening to liberals, but the fact is this is where they're going, and we have to be educated exactly to where they're going. I don't care about Trump's taxes. I don't care how much Hillary Clinton talks about it. It means nothing to me. And I'm going to say, because I know the guy's got a lot of money, and I know that if he was wrong somewhere, that he would probably be getting hammered by the IRS, okay? I don't think he's illegal. I think he probably has something in there that's embarrassing to average working folks that he's trying to get to vote for him. With all of that, John Nichols, Washington correspondent of The Nation magazine. John, good to have you with us.
Great to be with you, Ed.
Maybe you know who's going to pay for all this. I don't know. What do you...
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly who's going to pay. You want to know? All of us 10 years down the line, 8 years down the line, because that's what our Republican friends do. When a Democrat is president of the United States, they scream about debts and deficits. They tell you it's the worst thing in the world. It's destroying the country, running the country off the cliff. When they get in charge, you look at what Reagan did, you look at what Bush did, they run up debts and deficits.
And this is what Trump said today about what he's going to do right away.
As soon as I take office, I will ask Congress to fully eliminate the defense sequester and will submit a new budget to rebuild our military. It is so depleted. We will rebuild our military. This will increase certainty in the defense community as to funding and will allow military leaders to plan for our future defense needs. And most importantly, we will be defended, because without defense, we don't have a country.
Okay, so that's making America great again. And oh, by the way, Johnny, you're going to pay for it. I will too, I guess.
Well, and your kids and your grandkids. And this is the problem, frankly, with both parties. They both game this debate a little more than they should. But it's a particular challenge with the Republicans. And, they have told us, Ed, really for the last 8 years, that we have to have austerity. That, of course, we had enough money to bail out all the banks. Of course, we had enough money to fight 2 major wars off the books. Of course, we had enough money to do anything that basically the people they're associated with wanted to do. But as soon as Barack Obama became president, right, we didn't have enough money for anything. Mm-hmm. And you got to shut the government down rather than, add any more to the debt or do any more in a deficit. Okay. This is a lie.
Yeah.
The lie of austerity.
Now, let's talk about strategy in the Middle East for just a moment. This is a comment that Trump made today in his speech that caught my attention.
Our actions in the Middle East will be tempered by realism. The current strategy of toppling regimes with no plan for what to do the day after only produces power vacuums that are filled simply by terrorists. Gradual reform, not sudden and radical change, should be our guiding objective in that region.
That is the most cerebral comment I've ever heard Donald Trump make on the Middle East. Not that it's that real deep, it's pretty profound, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's leading with independent voters. And the backdrop of this, John, is that there's just a back and forth between Clinton and Trump, as you well know, that who's suited to be commander-in-chief. Hillary keeps saying he doesn't have the temperament. He says the same thing about her. And so now he's saying that his Middle East actions are going to be tempered. In other words, he's not going to invade anybody and create a vacuum for terrorists. I think that plays. I'm not voting for Trump, but I think it plays. Your thoughts?
Of course it plays, Ed. Across America, you want to look at polling data, you want to look at anecdotal evidence, just going out and traveling and talking to people. I think if there's one thing Americans don't want, it's another war. And the language that he chose there was basically peeled right off of Bernie Sanders' speeches and debate pronouncements. What did Bernie Sanders say? Regime change. He didn't like regime change because regime change is unplanned. It usually does create a vacuum. It creates circumstances which we can't control. We end up recognizing a lot of things that we should have after the fact that we should have recognized before. Trump is, with that statement, making an appeal to a substantial portion of voters, I think especially in the middle of the country, who believe that for a long time we've been fighting too many wars.
Yeah.
And so it can play depending on how much he amplifies it. However, his massive increases in defense spending may cause some people to doubt how serious he is.
Well, you're on the verge of a government shutdown or conversation of it, and he wants to dig us deeper into a hole, and there was no how or why he wants to do this. It was just military testosterone and military industrial complex. I'm sure the people over at Raytheon and General Dynamics were going nuts on all of that. All right, I want to talk about Speaker Paul Ryan. Who's this guy, Glenn Klein, talk show host, WRJN in Wisconsin? Yeah, I'm sure you know the guy. Anyway, he had an interview with Paul Ryan. They were talking about the email document dump last Friday by the FBI before Labor Day. And this is the comment that Paul Ryan said.
What's going on with the FBI? Are they like an arm of the Clinton campaign? They do the data dump on Friday of Labor Day weekend?
I know. Of Labor Day weekend. It's like the most buried time you could ever put out stories. So I'm surprised. I mean, I can't believe that they would do what is such a patently political move. It makes them look like political operators versus law enforcement officers. So the fact that they chose the Friday before Labor Day to put all this out there, it mystifies me as to why they thought that was a smart thing to do.
That's quite an accusation, or should I say depiction, of the FBI by the Speaker of the House, saying that they look more like a political arm than they do a law enforcement agency. Now, in the wake of this, the Republicans have asked the U.S. Attorney here in Washington, D.C., Channing Phillips, to look into the possibility of another investigation in dealing with obstruction of justice. Hillary Clinton yesterday on her airplane said that the FBI has already looked into this. The Republicans are saying, oh, no, they haven't. There's a real question about the timing of conversations that she had. Not only were there staff, but other operatives, and the deletion of the emails, and also involving the tech company in Colorado that was involved in the deletion of emails. There's a lot and I'm just giving you the surface of the slough right here, John. I'm not even 2 feet into the slough. There's a lot of stuff in the weeds here. Is this going to continually dog Hillary Clinton and hurt her in the polls, or when and how can she put this to rest?
Well, I think those are two very separate questions. Will it continue to dog her? Probably not more than it does right now, because remember, what you heard from Ryan there, which was pretty intemperate remarks, is something that really echoes and parallels what an awful lot of our Republican friends have been saying for years. And so I think that most Americans who are inclined to believe bad things about Hillary Clinton already believe them. Those who are disinclined have, I think, had their final call on all that when Clinton testified before Congress. So I'm not sure how much you move polling data per se. But will this continue to dog her in reality? Ongoing attacks, ongoing efforts to find legal avenues, congressional avenues to go after her. Yes, I'm pretty sure it will, because there is no evidence that the Republicans ever want to let go of this one. This is something they've been on for a very long time. And when there are revelations, when there are questions that arise, to them, that's just the justification of everything they've done.
Okay, so is the Clinton campaign of the mindset that if the FBI releases documents that nobody's going to question it? I mean, I just find
they should be careful about that.
I just find that amazing. Do they think that the country isn't going to have any questions whatsoever? Oh, no more documents. I guess it's okay. No need to ask any question. What do they think the Republicans are going to do? And your thoughts?
Well, my thought is that Hillary Clinton, who has started to do some occasional conversations on her planes with reporters, frankly needs to do a lot more interviews.
Well, she shut this down yesterday. I mean, quickly, the FBI's already looked into that.
Well, I'm sorry. That's just, look, I'm talking about serious sit-down interviews that are a little rough, where you take some tough questions, you really wrestle with it. One of the things that I think is important is that we not look at all these charges and counter charges individually, but you see them as sort of part of a package. I think that the Republican strategy, certainly the Trump strategy, is to throw everything they can at the wall and see if anything sticks.
Yeah.
For Clinton, her best counter to that is not necessarily an individual response, but it is a sense that she's open to talking about things, to answering questions, that she's not defensive all the time.
Yeah.
Frankly, I think yesterday she looked a little defensive.
I don't think there's any doubt. All right, final question, final point I want to bring up. Polls are polls are polls. It's close, margin of error, all that stuff. But there is a number that jumped out, that Donald Trump has a 20-point lead among independents across America. What's your analysis of that? I have one. What's your analysis of it? What does that mean?
Well, I'll give you what I hope is the right analysis. I hope it parallels yours. And that is that in the United States, we don't vote nationally. We vote state by state.
Yeah.
And in many states around this country, which are overwhelmingly on one side or the other, southern state that's overwhelmingly Republican, a western state overwhelmingly Republican, there's an awful lot of people who identify as independents, but are, tend to be, on one side or the other, but they prefer the term independent.
Well,
I think that Trump is very appealing to a lot of those folks. I think he's running his numbers, especially if you look at the polling data out of some interior western states and some southern states. And so I would be careful about overemphasizing the national polls. Look at where independents.
Well, and I got what you're saying, but that is such a big number. It is
big.
It's 2 times double digit. It's 20%, 49-29 lead in independents. I find it hard to believe that wouldn't have some bleeding into even the battleground states.
Well, of course it does. And here's where the data, I would worry, if I was Clinton folks, I'd worry less about that figure on the national level and worry about the percentage of people, when we look at these polls out of battleground states, the percentage of people who still identify as undecided. And if you look at, Ohio and Pennsylvania and, a number of these other battleground states, what you see is Clinton may have a little bit of a lead, but there's a huge undecided, way big. And the Clinton folks ought to be worried about that. Those folks may also be folks that often identify as independents, whatever. But I happen to believe that there's a chunk of folks who probably are leaning toward Trump that don't like to say it even to a pollster.
Yeah.
Especially in some of the battleground states.
Yeah.
And so I would not rule out that Trump is, he's got a little bit of reservoir there. And I think you may be seeing that in some of those national polls, not so much in the battleground states. And so I guess we can analyze. What we get to is, my sense is, this race is actually pretty close. And I think Clinton still has an advantage, but she needs to do a lot of work to be in the sort of secure position that a lot of her backers think she's in.
Yeah. John Nichols, always great to talk. Thanks so much.
Okay, brother.
Washington correspondent of The Nation, John Nichols. Kevin Kramer, congressman from North Dakota, will join me tonight on RT at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Go to RT.com, click on the news, and you can watch it live. He's going to be talking about the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe and their objection to the Dakota Access Pipeline. That's one story we're going to do. Manila Chan is out today, and she's going to be giving us a report on just how sick a lot of Americans are of this election cycle. And she'll dive into those independent numbers a little bit. Mike Papantonio also tonight on what the Republicans want to do about a possible obstruction of justice investigation. That's all coming up tonight on the News with Ed. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team bring you Ed Schultz news and commentary. We're back tomorrow.